Cheers guys, Epix 911. Welcome to the first quick look in a long time. Lots of excuses. We don't need excuses though. We just need a quick look to start. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to start off this new quick look with the Talos Principle. This is primarily a puzzle game, but if you're looking for a little bit more under the hood and you want to explore the storyline, the narrative, the underlying theme of this game, pretty kick-arse. I'll explain as we dive in. We'll just let the narrator say his little bit first, and then I'll get started.
Behold, child, you are risen from the dust, and you walk in my garden. Hear now my voice, and know that I am your maker. And I am called Elohim. Seek me in my temple, if you are worthy.
All right, so that voice, the narrator in this, you're going to hear that voice quite a bit. Elohim, word for God, deity, or maybe your maker, because if you take a look at your hands, you'll notice you are an artificial construct. A robot, if you will, and you can play this game on Vive or Rift. I've mostly played it on Vive. This is probably just a handful of times that I've done it on Rift, but yeah, I kind of like it on Rift, so I decided to do my 10th take of this game with the Rift. So what's so special about this game? Epix, you said it's a puzzle game. Okay, got it. Show us some puzzles, and there we go. Well, that's where I gotta explain a little bit. So notice where we start out. We're a robot. We've got some voice talking to us, a god, a creator, who knows? We just know we're robots. And why are we in these ruins? And there's something interesting in that. You can play this game for its puzzles and be treated to about 120 plus devious and sinister puzzles, or you can play the puzzles as a backdrop to the storyline, or the other way around, because the storyline, especially if you have a bit of a philosophy bent, delivers in spades by getting you to ask questions and hopefully provide answers to questions. Why am I here? Why is any of us here? So here we are in these ruins of antiquity, and as somebody who said he's a huge history geek, one of my dreams come true was being able to explore the former Roman Empire from its farthest reaches in the West in Spain and UK all the way to the east in Turkey and the Middle East, Ephesus, Pompeii. In fact, this ruin feels a lot like a Herculaneum or a Pompeii or one of the Greek ruins you could come across. And I say ruin because to picture how this would have looked, this would have all been coated in marble, gleaming colors everywhere. So why does the game choose ruins? Why not show this as it really was? Well, that's part of the narrative again. Part of what I think makes this game so brilliant is you are alone. And it went to absurd lengths almost to create this massively large but empty world. Notice I didn't use words like hollow though to describe it. I say empty. Empty because it's just you. You got to figure out not just why you're the only thing here, period, but maybe why you are in existence. And the narrative will do that. And it's pretty freaking cool. If you are a philosophy student, you're gonna get a lot out of this. Even if you aren't, and you just like asking yourself trippy questions, well, the game will be able to answer those and pose some questions you may never even have thought of. So try to picture how this would have looked. Like I said, we see bricks here. Most of this would have been coated in marbles, right? So we've got this jammer here. We've got this technology in these ruins, and already we have these questions. Why the hell are we here? What am I? Why am I here? Why is this a ruin? And why is there technology scattered about? And we'll get answers to that. But we've got to start with some basic puzzles to move the narrative forward. So we've got this scanner. You can see it's almost like one of those roadside, you know, the construction workers type ones where they've got a laser level. Except this thing is used to jam force fields like this blue one. Just hit the trigger and release. Now I can walk through. You can take the camera through certain shields, others like that you can't, because once you're using it, it's used. I could have done this, and then I'd be stuck. So we'll disable the shield, and we're gonna go through ourselves. And then there's these purple ones here. And as we turn around, check that out, a sentinel. Watch what happens when we get close. Those laser beams will kill you instantly. That turret in the distance, same thing. The turret, however, can also kill those sentinels. And guys, when I say these puzzles get devious, a bit of an understatement. They are fun and challenging, and they never feel unfair. So here's another jammer. We've used it on the force field, the blue types. Now let's use it on a sentinel. Some puzzles are going to give you one of those with two objects, the laser turret and the sentinel. You can't freeze both, so what do? We're lucky, we've got another one. The puzzles are still nice and simple. And through we go. So we'll just let Buddy speak here again.
I have created trials for you to overcome, and within each I have hidden a sigil. It is your purpose to seek these sigils, for thus you will serve the generations to come and attain eternal life.
All right, so let's talk about the setting again and the graphics. So the graphics created, at first I thought it was the Unreal Engine. It's not, it's the Cro engine, same one that powers the Serious Sam games. And damn, are they immersive. And as I was playing this game, it all started to make sense why the devs went to this crazy lengths to create this huge world, to make you feel insignificant on purpose, to make you feel alone on purpose, so that you'd want to answer some of those questions. But the level of detail, it's stunning, guys. Look at these trees. Check this one out here. Notice how it just moves as if there's a little bit of a breeze passing through. Everywhere you look, you get that. The distance, the detail, it stays magnificent as far in the distance. It doesn't use cheap fogging tricks, so you're gonna need a decent system to run it at the settings. I've got them pretty much all on ultra, except for GPU. Even with a 1080, I think I've got that set to just high. But all of that contributes, because they could have just went and said, let's make a puzzle game. But that would have taken away from what VR adds to the equation. And I think if you've played Talos Principle outside of VR, which I have, in fact, most of the reviews are based on that, why, and Chris Bauer and, you know, his urging, why I ultimately decided to do a quick look on this. It really comes into its own in VR, way more so than in the non-VR version. So what we need to do throughout the game is we got to get these, the game calls them sigils. We know them as Tetris pieces. They're basically tetrominos, I believe they're called. If you're a geometry guy, tetronimos, tetromino, one of the two. We'll just call them sigils or Tetris pieces. So here's our first puzzle after the simple ones. Here's an example of it just increasing a little bit. So we've got that turret. Notice there's a cable running out of it to a switch. So what we can do is we can use the sensor jammer here. Jam it. Enable that switch. And check this out. This is so cool. We take this away, it's off. because of that switch. Now that frees up this jammer camera to use on our Sentinel buddy here, which frees us up to go past him and grab the sigil. Now just one more little history thing.
The shapes you are collecting are not mere toys. They are the sigils of our name. Each brings you closer to eternity.
So I was going to talk about the statues because they're thrown in here, and you could just think of them as art assets, or you could think of them as contributing to the story. And they do, and that's what's so amazing. So if you are a bit of a history buff, you don't even have to be a huge one, you probably are aware, but I'll mention it for those who aren't, why so many of the statues of antiquity are headless. You'll see these otherwise beautiful marble statues with no freaking head. And the reason was, these builders were smart. They didn't want to spend all their freaking time with how quickly emperors changed making statues. They'd never have free time. They built them to be modular. They built them to have swappable heads. So all the builder had to do is, if a new emperor came into power only a year after the previous one was assassinated, well, you could just swap the head. Presto, instant new statue. So that's one piece. Now we're going to go into the second here. So here the puzzles get devious in a different way. Again, we've got one jammer, we've got a turret, and check this out. We've got a sentinel in there, and right in the back there, the sigil. If we use it for the camera, how are we going to get past the sentinel? Well, notice he's trying to path through this force field door. So watch what happens when we jam the force field door. He comes through, and if we then unjam it, he can't get back through. He's stuck. We can now jam this turret, and boom, we're free to get the sigil. So far, the puzzles have been pretty straightforward. Once we get the sigil, we're done. Well, they eventually get to the point where once you get the sigil, you might only be halfway done.
One more sigil is needed.
So we'll get one more sigil here. So we've talked about the graphics. Let's talk about these sigils real quick. Like I said, the Tetris pieces, they're the currency of the game. You can use them to gain access to new areas. You can also use them to gain access to new items. I love this puzzle here. This was the first one that really made me to kind of take notice of the game and think, wow, this is going to be fun. So we'll watch those laser beams. We're going to grab this turret here. Wait for Sentinel Buddy to go past. We tuck in. And just like we did with the other guy, except in reverse, instead of locking him out, we're going to lock him in. We'll wait for this Sentinel to go past. And then we will jam here, grab the sigil. Remember what I said about sometimes you're not done when you got the sigil? Case in point here. We have to now get out of here safely.
You, child. Go forth.
By jamming him. Sound effects, functional, music, amazing. And I say that not because it's mind-blowing, but because it's so subdued and yet atmospheric at the same time. Sometimes you can have really good soundtracks, but they make themselves too prominent. And if they're short loops, after a while they can just start grating on your nerves. With this, they're really long, they're subdued, they never feel repetitive, and they always feel kind of set appropriate. So I said there's Greek and Roman style ruins, there's also Egyptian, and there's even medieval. But the medieval's European, not Asian. That would have been nice, and hopefully in a future game. So now pieces that we used, we're going to use these to gain access to a new area. And we're going to see some more technology here. Looks kind of like Commodore PET terminal or any one of a dozen late 1970s beige nameless terminals. Not going to get into this too much, but I do want to share with you what these are for. And when I said there's a storyline and there's questions that need answering, why are you here? What's the point of all of this? A lot of that storyline is going to be done through these terminals. As you gain more access, you're going to get access to email logs of other individuals. And the storyline will start to unfold. You can still play it as a puzzle game. You can play it as a cool story with puzzles or both. And I think ultimately the best way to enjoy it, you know, probably a focus on puzzles, but keep the storyline moving forward. So there's about 120 plus puzzles. I'm not going to ruin anything with the first 5 or 6 showing you guys, but I do want to stay out of the terminal. I think that starts getting pretty special.
Step into the light, child, and my temple will be revealed to you.
So again, you're a robot. Look at the use of binary, right? 0s and 1s. Teleporter will go in. Now, when I said you had to picture those ruins, how they would have looked with marble and stuff on them. I can't remember if that was a previous recording or this one.
Temple, whence many gates lead, and know that I have other temples, for my garden is greater than your eye can encompass, and all these worlds I made for you.
Check this out. So those ruins, as I said at the beginning, they would have looked way nicer. They would have had marble on them. They would have been gleaming white, plus all kinds of colors. The murals that were on them were very colorful. And it's kind of a shame in a sense, because the Roman Colosseum, a lot has survived, true. So much more would have survived if it wasn't pillaged over the last 2,000 years. What I mean by that is thieves, and they come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, even government officials and religious officials at the time raided the Colosseum for its iron. There were iron joints and joists all throughout that cement, the Roman cement. And had that not been removed, it probably would have almost looked as if it was only a few hundred years old. But the removal of that iron weakened the structure, and in that big earthquake in the Renaissance, most of that outer wall came down. And there also used to be bronze statues in each of the alcoves. Well, here's a small sample of what that might have looked like, at least the floors. There probably would have been a lot more marble instead of brick in the temples, but yeah, it would have looked special. So those sigils will gain you access to all these different worlds, and in here, items. So when I said it's also currency for items, through here, there's stuff you can unlock. So we're going to go into gate number 2. Lengthwise, you can probably get about 15 to 20 hours out of this game. If you're a grinder completionist, expect 20, 30 plus hours. Boom, here we go.
Let this be our covenant. These worlds are yours, and you are free to walk amongst them and subdue them. But the great tower, there you may not go. For in the day that you do, you shall surely die.
The Great Tower. I'm not going to ruin that for you guys, but all these little islands, as we go back, all these little islands, areas that you're going to visit in the game. I mean, look at the sense of scale, right? And again, just makes you feel that much more alone and just drives the point of the storyline home. Really nice engine. Graphics are just terrific. Setting is awesome. Talked about music, audio, interface, locomotion, so many different options. We'll just take one more sneak peek if you wanted to see. VR controls, you can do all kinds of customizations. There's advanced controls. And check this out, it scrolls down. I've got it on smooth. You can do it in chunks. You can even do step-based movement, So it's like an Eye of the Beholder or Dungeon Master or Etrian Odyssey if you're a little younger. You're not sure about those old games. I'm going to show you one more thing here, one more puzzle. But I also want to just go into this amphitheater here just to kind of show you how that looks. Because you can also jump. There's still exploration that takes place outside of the puzzles, which is cool. Especially when you start doing that. We're just going to jump up here. These are impressive. Colosseums and the amphitheaters of the Roman and Greek world. This would have held 500 to 1,000 people. Check that out. More islands in the distance. Just big, beautiful world. Let's do our last puzzle. It's called Suicide Mission. And just another example of how insidious these puzzles get. It's kind of a mausoleum here. We'll go inside. Just all this detail. Because you think about it, they could have just created a puzzle game without any graphics or setting. But having this just adds to it. Especially, like I said, with the storyline. So here we go, we got this jammer. We've got a turret that is off. And we've got a switch, a force field, and a sentinel. Well, we know the sentinel's gonna come out if I open the door, if I jam it. And he's gonna shoot us before we are able to get through that. So we gotta think about this. We can see that there's a switch to turn that jammer or the turret on or off. So let's jam it so that when we turn it on, it'll still be off. And we go back here, and those mission names, this one, Suicide Mission, sometimes give you hints. So now watch what happens. The laser's active. We do the force field down. Check this out. Boom! He's gone. We jam it and get our sigil.
Good. You are learning, as is your purpose. But your choices must be your own. Therefore, I will not guide you, unless it is necessary.
Well, guys, let's leave it there. I know I babbled a bit, but I really wanted to just drive home that it's more than a puzzle game. Hopefully I've done that, piqued your interest a little bit. Look, if you're not into puzzles, this isn't going to sway you. I mean, sure, you could load it up just to be a tourist and check out some cool locations, you know, show your family some Roman and Greek ruins, but it really wouldn't be taking advantage of the game. If you do like puzzles, though, and storylines, definitely recommend picking this up. If you can get it on sale, even better. So unless you despise puzzle games, what I'm saying is this is a game worth getting. The Talos Principle, guys. As always, cheers. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comments below. Do my best to get back to you right away. Cheers, guys.